right, well, it's 5 o'clock. We'll call the Tuesday, September 2nd meeting of the West Bridgewater Board of Water Commissioners to order. You both have the minutes of the previous meeting up in front of you. Have you had a chance to look at them? Have any comments or questions?
I looked at them and they're okay with me.
What?
Good.
I'll take a motion to accept.
So made. So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Thank you.
And there you go. Okay, warrant statements, that's already been done. 80 Crescent Street is not coming in. So, new business, James Hoyt, update on projects.
Got it. All right, so, think two projects we've been updating, Sierra and Manly. So starting with the Manly plant. Last week, they wrapped up the work that was in the proposed change order. So essentially, those vessels have been repaired, they've now been filled. We went over, we got all the sheets from the RPR who was on site and went through and just did a quick tally of the hours compared to what was in the PCO. And, it was, good news. So we look at what was in the original PCO between all the various labor categories, it was about 408 hours anticipated. RPR observed that there was only 266 man hours on site. So we don't have a revised price, from the contractor, but we'll push them to get that in our court so that we have a final number for planning purposes. And as we work with work with Wayne on the ARPA piece, we want to accurate accounting of what we're spending out of the ARPA so that we can take some of the burden off the SRF. You'll remember the analysis we presented last time showed that there's going to be significant ARPA funds left to help reduce the principal of the SRF fund. So the one thing I do want to point out is each of these sheets where our RPR noted the hours of people on site, they were signed off by the site, the project foreman. So as far as we're concerned, there'll be no difference in what those hours are.
no plus or minus. No plus.
Exactly.
So we should have a decent chunk down from what they estimated.
Yeah, so it's hard to know because we don't, without the certified payrolls, we don't know which guy is getting paid which rate. But we know the rates are what they are because of the certified payrolls, right? That it's going to be consistent with what the pay rates have been the whole project. So at that point, we'll have an actual number on what the savings are. But we expect it to be a decent savings.
It should be half.
So,
it should be about half of the labor.
Of the labor, right? Yeah. The sub costs and the materials and equipment are probably
Small tools.
Yeah, small tools.
We'll see.
Couldn't help myself.
But anyway, so it's good news, right? So at least we know we saved on the labor.
Well, that's significant though.
Yeah.
200 hours of labor, and that's significant though.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess in addition to doing that change order work, they also have done most of the chemical feed system work at this point. I think they have some minor plumbing to do to get the lines over to the injection point, etc. But in terms of like the big ticket items for the chemical feed system, those are all now in place. So kind of looking forward, we have our remaining to-do list for the green sand process, and then we have our remaining to-do list for the PFAS. And we're still trying to figure out what that delta is going to be in timing. Right now, as far as the green sand goes, we're trying to nail down the performance testing part of it. So they're responsible for having Hungerford and Terry on site when they do the performance testing of the media. We're waiting to hear that Hungerford and Terry is confirmed to be on site. And in the meantime, we're going over the backwash procedure with the contractor. So long story short, we typically require a backwash after the green sand media is put in place, but before the anthracite is. The contractor already put the anthracite in, but hasn't done the backwash. According to the media manufacturer, that's okay to do it because the media that's being provided for this project is I don't know if they call it pre-rinse, but supposedly it's preconditioned to not have a lot of fines in it. So we're not convinced just to take the media manufacturer's word at it, so we have a little bit of conversation to have with Hungerford and Terry, who ultimately is going to own the performance guarantee. So when we do performance testing, they need to show that the iron in, the manganese in is X, your removal is Y and Z, and if it doesn't perform as specified, then they're on the hook for it. So ultimately, we want to get everyone who's got skin in the game, and we want to make sure, we're not just taking the media manufacturer's word. And if we have to pull the anthracite out, backwash it, and then replace it, then the contractor will have to do that. It's per the spec. So just kind of working through, trying to get that all dealt with now, so that when Hungerford and Terry is available and is on site, we've got it dealt with and backwashed, and we don't hold up the project.
If the fines aren't out of that media, then that's gonna wash through and get into the PFAS tanks? Is that the
So it
concern?
most likely come out, what's going to come out will come out during the backwash, because the specific gravity of it is significantly lower than the anthracite, which is significantly lower than the green sand media. So it's designed that way on purpose so that when you backwash and you lift the bed, it settles back in the correct layers. So the issue with the anthracite being there is we don't have that visual confirmation that there isn't fines on the top, and it could just lead to unexpected head loss. So, it shouldn't impact the performance of the media from doing this job, but it could cause, potential head loss, to be higher than expected. And without the visual confirmation that those fines aren't there, we're a little bit hesitant to just say we agree with the media manufacturer that we can backwash it with the 100%.
And when they do the performance testing on the media, they also testing the head loss across the
Yeah,
bed?
yeah, that'd be part of it.
Would it be tight enough that would be able to actually see if it was clogging it?
I would think so. I think, if it was a big problem, it would certainly, show itself during the testing. But it's hard to say what the impact would be down the road, as the media gets used and you see head loss, as a natural part of the treatment process and the backwash process. It's hard to say that just because we don't see the differential on day one when the media is clean, that it couldn't contribute when the media is dirty to be, a higher head loss than it would be if the fines weren't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about an extended backwash period if the anthracite's there? Since the stuff's light, stuff should get out eventually. Maybe Hungerford and Terry can weigh in on that too.
Yeah, that's.
Or just make them take the
potential
anthracite out.
mitigation. As far as we're concerned, it's the contractor's responsibility. There's no cost to the water department if they have to pull it out, do it, and put it back in. So, that will be our default position unless Hungerford and Terry convince us, that that's overkill. So while that's kind of progressing, we're also doing the work over at the wells. There's some electrical and instrumentation that needs to be done before we get those started back up, but that should be one of the next, dominoes that we see fall to get us set up to be ready to do start up the performance testing. Then the other piece is the PFAS treatment. So the media is there. They're waiting on some flange pipe to make the final connection in that new building. Essentially, we have the pipes that come out of the floor, and we have the vessels, but the way to connect them up requires them to order some new flange pipe, which aren't the ones that they had previously purchased and had on site. As we've seen now on our short term and here, that can be a lead item. So we are seeing that mistake on their part is potentially going to create a delay in when PFAS is being ready. PFAS treatment is ready to be brought online. So we're trying to understand, when is the green sand ready to come online? When is the PFAS ready to come online? And then the third piece is the bag filter. So as you know, we've been hammering them for 6 weeks now to get us a number and a lead time. And we finally got it like, I don't know, 45 minutes before I left to come here, it came in the door. So we haven't had a chance to pour through it. But I will say that the lead time that we were given was 8 weeks, which is better than the 99 days we were previously told. And then the price came in at $115,000 to do it, which I think is in the ballpark of what we were all kind of expecting it to be, based on the number of trades that also have to work on it. So we have electrical, we have updates to the SCADA. So, our first reaction was it's in the ballpark, but I didn't have time to thoroughly go line by line and say, we think it's right. So we'll, go through it, we'll share our thoughts with you, and then hopefully we'll be in a position where we can give them the go-ahead to at least order the bag filter, so we can get that lead time started.
Let's say, how does that 8-week lead time fit into the rest of the schedule?
Yeah, so it could potentially align itself well with the startup of the PFAS, because I think, Wayne has made it clear that he's hesitant to start up the PFAS without it anyway. It's just a matter of if the green sand is ready to go, well before that 8 weeks, and really we should call it 9 weeks. It's going to take us at least a week to, process and give them the go ahead if the pricing that they gave us, is acceptable upon the thorough review. Then if we're talking 2-week difference, maybe the conversation with Wayne is we just live without the plant for an extra 2 weeks. If it's 5-6 weeks, then you might want to screen the plant back, So I think that's the balancing act we're trying to figure out, get all the pieces on the scale and see where it falls.
So we need to get that decision made as soon as possible so they get there. We put the clock back on them.
Yeah, at least, I think we all acknowledge that from a treatment point of view, having the bag filters there is a good idea. So if we can at least release that, and if we have to push back on other items.
There's there's a finish date. I don't know if that's a hard date, something, it's on October, isn't it?
That sounds like it flew by. The finish day, right?
No, it's in October,
Right.
Couple of months yet.
so we're closing in. I don't know if that's a hard date or that's,
No, I mean, and also,
obviously we added in the bag filter.
and that's all ARPA, right? So the bag filter is being paid out of the ARPA funds. The change order work that, do the internals, that's being paid out of the ARPA funds. And as you know, we're under budget. We're not using the entirety of the SRF loan appropriation because we have excess ARPA funds, even after paying for the bag filter, even after paying for the change order, the internals. We have a significant chunk of that ARPA, which we're going to use off the principal. So, certainly by October, we probably will have spent down the vast majority of the SRF piece that we're going to, which is why we're at the stage now where every pay application we're looking at, we're comparing that to where we're projecting the ARPA funds to cover construction. And that's why we've been hammering them on this bag filters. We need to know the number. So we know how much, if we think it's going to be X and ends up being more than that, then, now we've used more of the SRF funds than we need to, or, we didn't. So that's kind of why we're pushing to get a decision made on the bag filter more than anything, is to have a clear picture on what ARPA funds we're spending so that we don't spend SRF and leave ARPA on the table. Because we'd much rather use the grant than the loan, even at 0%.
But if the plant's not back online in October,
Well,
we
it
don't
has nothing
lose
to
the
do with
SRF.
online.
It just has to be spent. It doesn't have, it's not like the right?
It has to be spent. I just know the contractor had X amount of days.
Yes, right, so that's not, that,
And that's something that can be moved. It's moved on our part, not on his part.
Right, so it would be included in the change order, would extend the contract dates by the number of days they spent doing out-of-scope work.
Right.
If there were other unforeseen consequences that related to delays, oftentimes we'll offset that. They have not requested that at this time. But in terms of the SRF, we don't have to have that money spent by October.
It's the little pieces, they're coming together. The electrician, I think he could have done more work than he did in the lag time. Like they couldn't test the wells today because that hadn't been jumped over. The thing was dead the minute I shut it down.
Right.
They could have changed it over.
Yeah, we agree, and that's what we anticipated was going to happen. And we found out this morning that he wasn't ready.
Right.
Mar finished their work.
Yeah, they're just waiting to test now.
Yeah, so they're waiting on the electrician essentially. Is anything else on Mammoth?
Have they loaded the PFAS media in, or is it just it's on site?
No, it's on site, but it's not installed in the vessel. They have to disinfect and test that tank before they'll put the media in. And they haven't at this point done any of the piping either. So that's on their to-do list before we can do the PFAS piece up. They're gonna have to chlorinate, flush, and test all that.
Honestly, I'm not in a hurry because I haven't been able to get to the lagoon jet to scoop them out.
Okay.
And they're both, you know.
Well, I'm not telling the contractor that.
No.
Let's keep the pressure on them. Okay, so I do have a couple handouts for Sierra Nevada.
It's gonna be a test.
This is an eye test.
Yeah, the font did print out a little bit small, didn't it? Sorry, the numbers that
Oh, this is the.
really matter,
SBC.
are on the bigger table anyway.
So,
Okay, so if we start just with the first one, it's just the notice to proceed. I brought it along today because I'm not sure if you need a vote on this or not, so I just wanted to, kind of go through the plan and then you guys can, let us know whether votes needed. But essentially, as an update to the award process, since we were last here, we did get the authorization to award from DEP. As a formality, we actually did get the permission to advertise as well. So all the paperwork was in place to allow us to execute the contract with Waterline. So the contract and the notice of award, per your previous, vote, was dated and executed once we had that authorization. The effective date of the contract was August 26th. So we have fulfilled our obligation to award prior to the August 31st deadline, which means the project is still eligible for principal forgiveness. So that was kind of the big hurdle we've been working towards, and we're happy to say that did get executed on time. So the other piece that we think is really positive is that Waterline has been very active already. For example, we got their schedule of values this morning. We haven't even asked for them yet, so they're clearly ready to get going. They're still targeting October to really start, so we're expecting, the shop drawings and some of these long lead items, to start coming in. So to that end, we're trying to set up a pre-construction meeting. And then this is, I guess, I'm putting you on the spot, but
Yep.
don't feel like you have to answer on the spot. But we're hoping that on either September 16th or 17th, we could hold that pre-construction meeting here at a time that's convenient for you. So if you wouldn't mind looking at those two dates and, letting us know if there's a time either day that works for you. If not, then we can push to start looking at the following week for dates.
Let's see, what time is it? 11 o'clock. If you wanted to do it like, figure an hour?
So,
Hour and a
yeah, I
half.
would say an hour to 90 minutes.
I mean, if we did it, as long as I was out by 10 o'clock, we could do it either morning,
Okay,
or either of those days.
so like 8 a.m.
Fine by me.
Okay, so
Is that okay, Wayne? We come in and take
I was
over the,
spotting out, so.
Can we-
what were the
can we
dates?
take-
So I think it would be the Wednesday, right? Those
Tuesday or Wednesday, right?
Okay,
16th
either
or
of those
17th.
is fine. So
What, next
Tuesday or Wednesday.
16th, 17th.
Yeah.
This month?
So not next week, but the week after. And again, I don't need the answer right this moment, but if,
Probably answer.
Yeah, that's it. The only thing for me, both of those days, I'd have to be out of here probably about 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So yeah, if we started at 8, that's fine.
Either day, I don't care.
Okay.
So get back to us with one or the other?
Yep, so then what I'll do next is reach out to DEP and see if there's one that works better for them. And then we'll lock it in and let you know. And so the plan is to date the notice to proceed that date. Originally we were thinking maybe date it today, but the contractor, again, has started to think through their schedule and they think it'll be tight based on the 500 days in the contract to get there. So they're asking if we could date it for the pre-con, buy them an extra couple weeks, and as far as we're concerned, that's, I think, a reasonable request. So our suggestion would be at the pre-con
Do that.
meeting, we would date it effective that day. Essentially, that's when they would get the green light to start. Like I said, I think they're already doing some of this stuff. They've been around the block a time or two, so they know what it takes to do a project like this. So, we're already seeing some of these things, come in that show that they're ready to chomp with it. So I don't know, if you guys need a vote to sign a notice to proceed or not, but.
We've already awarded it.
Yeah.
I think the notice to proceed is more of a formality of it at this point. So when you know the date, you can fill it in, or actually then we can sign the notice to proceed that day. Right? It only takes the one, I think the only one that has to sign it is me.
Right, so.
So if I'm signing it, I can just do that and bring it that day filled out with the right date,
So, yeah, we will bring it with us.
and I'll sign it
And
that
you'll
day.
just have to sign it. Yep.
Okay. Unless somebody wants to take a vote anyway. And I don't think
No.
I think the vote we had to do was the one to actually award the job. Once it's beyond that, I don't think it matters.
So then the next one I'll point to is the table that's got the blue, the one that I made it very hard to read. I promise it wasn't intentional.
I would have brought my good reading glasses if I'd known this.
So long story short, this table here is a summary of what we sent to the emerging contaminants grant folks for that $3.1 million. So I just wanted to present this so when we're talking about the number on the next page, kind of understand where the numbers are coming from. So if you look at the rows that are shaded blue, this is work that has been done or is currently in progress. And so payment of these items is essentially reimbursement for funds you've already incurred. And then the third item, the one that's kind of the first white column, that is the CAA RPR contract for the Sear Norman plant. And then the next white column is essentially the leftover. So when we originally submitted, I don't want to say originally, I think we probably started back in December of 2024, but one of the iterations of this back in February, we had included the construction of the iron and manganese plant here at Sear Norman. And at the time, we were advised by the emerging contaminants people to remove it. And the reason being is you are not allowed to use this grant money to pay back loans. So at that time, we did not have a commitment from DEP as to what the construction costs were going to be. So we were not aware of a potential gap. We knew, I guess we always kind of knew the potential was there, that they would stick to that 10.7, but we didn't take that risk at the time because we had a list of, at that time, like $21 million of projects, and we knew we were capped at the 3.1. So at their advice, when we submitted the new version in March, we had taken that SRF project out so that we didn't have this potential double dipping where we were awarded the money and then we couldn't use it. After the last board meeting, we kind of reached out again and said, there is a desire to offset some of these construction costs out of this grant. We wouldn't be paying back a loan, we'd be reducing the principal of the loan. And essentially they said, it's an awful big change, you'd be required to resubmit the grant. So what I think Wayne and I discussed was, knowing that we started that process back in last December, and knowing that we have $3.1 million in grant money, we didn't really want to give it back and reapply. So what we looked at then is how can we, is there a way we can still use this to offset the burden of construction of that plant? And essentially what we came up with was, we're going to use that, we're going to maximize what we've already spent, get that reimbursement, and then it'll have to be an article to reappropriate it. So essentially you're going to get, as soon as this is awarded officially, you've already incurred these costs, so we can put in a reimbursement request. That money would then be dispersed to the town account, and then you have, I think, the warrant article the next time you have a town meeting, essentially reallocate those funds for construction.
When will this be awarded?
So it should be imminent. I don't have an exact date. We can reach out to Abigail and see if they've made
We've
any
been told we're
progress.
awarded it, it's
This-
just, they keep coming up with new paperwork
Yeah.
along the way. Like,
Right.
every time you're done, there's a gap hearing from them, and then we poke them, and then they poke us with new paperwork.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was a poor choice of words. It is awarded. It just, the funds aren't ready for disbursement yet.
I don't think they've made enough interest on it yet, so they,
So this table that we sent, I don't know, mid of last week maybe.
yeah. They gave us 5 days, and one of them was already gone at the beginning.
Right, yeah, so we had submitted it that Friday. So whenever I came that Monday, it was due that Friday, we submitted. She had edits for us, which we made within 24 hours. So our impression is that from the paperwork side, it's all there. But the only other thing I wanted to point out is that second white row for the 638,411. Since she wouldn't allow us to relocate that to a different project, we essentially spent everything else to the max, and this line is what's left over. And rather than give it back, we're leaving that in, and essentially this is money you'll eventually use for the first phases of the PFAS upgrades over here. So this grant you can use up until 2029. And as you know, the PFAS compliance is going to be somewhere between 2029 and 2031, we think. So it actually could work out well that we get this plant built, and then you still have time to do the pilot test, and it'll be completely paid out of grants. And it would cover the permitting as well, so we'll have to do like a pilot test proposal. Then after we do the pilot test, we would do the pilot test report, and then also a permit to modify our new plant to add the PFAS. So this would cover those two items with some left over, and then, as we're going through the pilot test, we would know how much is left for potential design. But they wouldn't let us reallocate it, so we felt it was better to leave it in and have free grant money for PFAS, which we're gonna most likely have to do eventually anyway, rather than give it back. So I just wanted to point out one last number at the bottom, this 1.47 million. That's the sum of those blue. I'm just pointing that out because that number is on the next table. So the other table I gave you is kind of actually two tables stacked. And this is just kind of where all the funding came out after we got the approval to award and after we finalized this list with the emerging contaminants grant. So looking at the first one, the funding sources, and kind of just working down, the appropriation was done over two separate appropriations with a total appropriation of the 16.8 million. And our total project cost, as you recall, came in about $500,000 under the appropriation. And that was based on the prices that came in and the contingency and the engineering. As we just discussed, these next three rows are those emerging contaminant items. So the first one is the first white row I pointed out, the 991,000. That covers the CA and RPR out of the grant. And then we have the next row is the emerging contaminant reimbursement to be reallocated. So that's that 1.47, which was the blue subtotal. So these are all the projects that you're going to be reimbursed for expenses you've already paid, which then can be reallocated for construction costs. And then the next one is that leftover for about 50,000. So when you look at the next bold row, it's the amount to be borrowed. Essentially, this is your project cost minus what is being paid out of the emerging contaminants grant. So that's what that 13.85 million is. So this is, essentially what the project cost, which includes the construction, the contingency, and the engineering. Once you use that about $2.5 million of the emerging contaminants grant to offset costs, you're left with that $13.85 million to be borrowed, and 10.7 million of that is going to be borrowed through the SRF program, and then the remaining to be borrowed separate from the SRF program is the 3.15 million. So I think the timing of going for that 3.15 million is something we'll kind of keep an eye on. Looking at the cash flow for the project, which we did share the Waterline and get their blessing, Waterline being the contractor.
Yeah.
We anticipate that you'll be through the SRF funds sometime between August and September, which means you then would start using the emerging contaminant grant, and then you would have the remaining, 3.1. So around the time of town meeting is probably when we'll start to look at the process of, where are the project costs coming in, do we have a handle on whether the full contingency is going to be needed, etc. And we assume town meeting is also the timing when that emerging contaminant funds would be approved for reallocation. So the timing seems to work out that, we'll spend the SRF first, emerging contaminant second, and, going out to borrow the remaining amount. We'll probably be having that discussion around the time of town meeting. And then the second table is just kind of breaking down where all the appropriations are being used by phase. Essentially, the CA, the RPR, piece is being paid, so the only engineering piece left over is that, amendment we had for the permitting. The contingency is gonna be completely outside of the SRF loan and emergent contaminants. And it's also the only unknown in the table really is the contingency. A project of this size, I think realistically we should expect there are going to be some uses of that money. Hopefully it's not, a full $700,000, but, we don't have a shovel in the ground, so we can't really, project what that number would be. And then, construction again, it's just showing that the 1.47 of the grants coming out of there, the SRF will fund, will be specifically used for construction, not any of the other costs. So that leaves 2.39, million that would be funded separately. And then last is just our estimate for what the principal forgiveness of the project should come in, understanding that that's going to be eligible on the $10.7 million piece, not the whole project. And so that comes in about $700,000 of principal forgiveness, which would also reduce the overall burden of the cost.
But that's just an estimate. We don't have anything from them.
Yeah, they haven't committed to it. And we ran into this mandate, right? It took forever.
Yeah.
To get it nailed in.
So when this is done, assuming all the numbers work out, we'll have like almost 640,000 in the bank to apply to the PFAS at San Juan.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a
Questions?
no.
No.
Yeah. So then, like I said, the next step is the pre-construction meeting. So we'll nail down that date. That's when we think, things will really rev up. We may even start seeing shotguns before that. We'll be requesting their project schedule ahead of the meeting, so we can start to get a handle on what are our, critical path items, what are our long lead time items. And then I think we'll be off to the races.
You'll have, as that stuff starts coming in for the shops, get a list of what's anticipated to come in, so I can let you know what to have sent direct for you guys to forward direct
So
to me.
since you have kind of time constraint, maybe we'll set up a Teams call with you at a more convenient time to kind of just talk OPM stuff.
Yeah, we don't have to do it it's not something to do in this meeting, but to just try to go through and start planning that, so when we hit it, I'm not holding anything up.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I think we're putting together a list of what shops we're expecting, so we can cross-reference them against the list the contractor has, and essentially just make sure we're on the same page. So once we have that, we can kind of send it over, and you can let us know, what you're thinking in terms of which ones you want to see prior to approval versus just being, copied on the response.
Okay. Have something like that to look at by the pre-construction meeting, you think?
We'll have our list done by then.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have the contractors by then.
Okay. All right. And say, anything else you have for us?
I think that's all I have tonight, unless there are other questions.
No, you're pretty well covered everything.
You're not going to ask me if you can make it cost half the amount?
No, not tonight. Next meeting.
I planted my money tree, but it hasn't sprouted
Really
yet.
looking for a check.
Next item is perchlorate. You want to stick around and listen to that, and you may have something to jump in on,
Yep.
as long as you're here.
I didn't put it on there, but,
It's on there.
well, we exceeded the limit. The problem is, I didn't know that Massachusetts had their own individual limit. So the timeline went beyond what DEP would like, so there'll be an enforcement coming at some point. They're still trying to figure that one out. Along the way, I've kept testing along the way. So the last test that I submitted is after the green sand and after the PFAS filter, which is basically finished water, so we know what that'll turn out. But just, more than likely, it came from our MyOx unit, and we generated it. That would be the thought. It's not in the raw, but it came out of the plant. And it's done by salts usually, and it's done with electrolysis or,
So something changed in the MyOx.
something changed in the MyOx system.
It
It was an
bumped it
aging
up.
system, it was 20-something years old, it's just weird that it went berserk at the end, which,
No, it's just typical for this system.
Yeah.
There's something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah, and we did find a white paper when we were doing our research on this when it first came up. And we did find a white paper specifically on the MyOx system, in examples where there was a generation for chlorate. It usually happens in like aging chemicals, like where they have time.
DEP kept chasing that with me, and none of our chemicals, they're first in, first out, there's no aging chemicals. And the MyOx is basically produced as used, so it doesn't sit there aged either. There's no mixer in the tank, but it pretty much drains the thing, so there was no aging. I think the system either went, it was on its way out.
But like you said, there was a white paper linking, MyOx systems to the generation of chlorate, where it's not in the wells.
Right.
We're hopeful that that whole system's gone, right? So
Oh yeah,
it's all.
couldn't wait to get rid of that.
Yeah, so I think just the one note is we'll have to add testing for that in our startup procedure for the plant.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna get
absolutely.
rid of it.
Even though we're changing the process, they're gonna
Right,
wanna
they're
see it
gonna-
going forward.
They're gonna be watching for it. And they have all my test results and all of my submissions to COC, so.
Considering how low it had been for all that time, for it to suddenly jump like that.
Right.
Hopefully it's a one-time thing, we change things out and it clears up. Okay.
Alrighty.
Anything else on it? You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave, whichever you would prefer.
You're done with us all this?
I think we're done with you from anything going on here. Because you basically just did our updates on the plants. None of the rest of the stuff there really has anything to do with you, so
Okay,
if
great.
you'd like to
Then
hit the
I'll
road, you may.
See you in a couple weeks, and then we'll just be in touch and see when your next board meeting is. We'll be happy to be here for an update.
Well,
15.
yeah, 15th.
Uh-huh.
That'll be our next one,
Okay.
the
very good.
15th. And
See you then.
which is then it'll be the day after or the day after that we'll have the pre-construction.
Right.
Right, okay. Just give me as soon as you know, give me a heads up, so Yeah.
Absolutely.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Did you write that?
Okay, moving to old business, nothing new on the ZBA thing, that's with the lawyers. We did the 2 station updates, unless you have anything else you want to add to it.
No, it's all progressing.
Superintendent's job description, I've done nothing since the meeting that we had with the selectmen, I don't know if you've looked at it any further.
No,
For coming up
I mean,
with
there's easily things you start crossing out, like
Yeah.
CDL.
Like I said, I've started doing some of that too, and it's just, I just got to that point and stopped. That's not high enough on the priority list with everything else going on.
Right, and you got a year and a couple of months
Yeah.
anyway, so.
400 Manley Street.
So their backflow test, they did a repair and it failed. So they've gotten approval from the building owner to go in and remove and replace. So they asked for an extension, they're moving on it now, so that's fine. As long as
How much
they
time
move
for
forward. What?
How much time for an
I
extension?
think I gave him 45 days and then I'll check back in. I put it on my calendar so I won't forget. I mean, it held, but it dropped, I think, 2 PSI over a certain amount of time.
Meaning it
It-
wasn't quite there, so it
Right.
failed, and no, that's,
Alright.
as long as they're replacing it.
Yeah.
And that was after the repair, they tried to do the repair.
Right, they did the repair first and then tested it and it failed.
Okay. You can't, I mean, changing all the components of the backflow. How
Yeah.
can it not pass?
So they didn't change all the parts. They only changed part of the parts. I mean, we've rebuilt them before and they don't hold, so, and then when you replace them, it works.
Okay.
Meters.
Well, we're keeping an eye on it, they're reading, we're watching. I know she gave me the copy of the thing, I wanna say
Were
we
you-
have about $50,000.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I thought you were
Right.
gonna look up how much money we have.
Yep. I just have to find it, I did clean up, hopefully I kept it.
But about 50,000, you think?
Yeah. Which is a good start. The start will be slow. We did most of it towards the end after, the previous administration was out. That's when we began to tackle it.
Are we going with the same meters?
Yes.
Are we gonna try any other ones, or why are we stuck with this one?
You're not stuck with this one, so you could look at it and you probably have a good first year before there'll be no massive amounts of meters failing out. So you have about a year to pick a new system if you decide that. But then after that, you'll start doing them, and then at the tail end, you'll replace all the new ones you just put in so that we're in one system instead of having multiple systems. It's like what we're doing with hydrants. We're getting it all to the same exact hydrant around town to minimize parts. And for talking between with our billing vendors, and they all seem to want to be in the clouds. And it's not as easy as when we had an NT server sitting right there and I could look in at it. It's not going up into the cloud and using their specific software that's detailed to whatever they wanted to design. Is not always the best.
The hydrants are different. We have different hydrants.
Oh yeah, we have about
Bunch of them.
5 or 6 in town.
Why?
We've standardized on the Mueller Centurion, and that's what we've been replacing, since I've been hired, that's all right.
But when the new contractors come in, aren't they using Muellers?
Yeah, but
Yes.
we have all the
Yeah.
old ones still, we haven't
Right.
replaced all the old ones
Yeah.
in the system.
We have a lot of other ones out there that are,
Yes, including the little ones with,
those
The
work
inch and
the
a half
best.
nozzles.
They're from the 1900s,
Yeah.
but they work the best.
You can hop.
Yeah, they're the small port, yes, the
Yeah.
work, forced Brandy, because it's the other one, can't think of the name of it. The big white headed ones. Those ones are the newest and they're the worst. They fail and they lock up.
Should we, on the new building for this, should we bring the DPW guys down and show them what we're doing?
I gave Phil a copy of the plans.
I mean, do you think you should go to, the
Pre-construction meeting?
what's that?
Pre-construction meeting or?
Yeah, don't you think you should
Done.
come in?
unless they end up taking over, what we were talking about with
Yeah.
merging that under him, there's nothing, he doesn't really have anything with it. I don't care if he's there.
I mean, is-
We could invite him, but I think he would look at it and say at this point, he's got other things. Because it's public work, they're not involved in any of that part right now. So. But if it looks like it's gonna move that other direction, then eventually he'll need to get involved.
Well, we can invite him at least.
Yeah, we can let him know it's coming
Yeah.
on and if he wants to
We fit into his schedule.
come down to it, but.
I'm sure he can put his take in with.
Well, we can let him know. There's a- More?
The only other thing is we went to cut in the hydrant up at the top of, North Elm and Copeland,
Yeah.
and we couldn't find the pipe. And the machine wasn't big enough for us to dig across the street and chase it, if it's even there. So we moved down to a spot where we knew it was, so that we could find it. And we did cap in the gates, we cut it all in, I think, last Thursday. There was a delay, it was supposed to be done on Wednesday, but we got behind on Monday when we didn't find the pipe, so we lost the day. We had to come back on Wednesday and dig the new trench and set it up so we could go in and cut it in really quickly.
Was there a vault there once upon a time when we bought?
There is a vault up, yeah, it was collapsing, so we filled it in with flowable cement, and Brockton has since paved it over, because the vault technically was in Brockton.
Is it still live up, is the water still live from Brockton to that point, or any else right?
I don't think Brockton's water is live to it, but ours is
It's
open.
live up to it?
Yes, so there is gates up there that are closed. And there are gates up there, but we've manipulated them, and it never shut off the water heading down Copeland, so we don't know what the gates, whether they're just full of crud or they do something else, we don't know. That's why we cut in a new set of gates. There'll be a hydrant and gates on either side of the hydrant, so we can shut off the water and bring it one way, and shut off the water and bring it the other way, up the very same hydrant. And it's on the property line with the gas station that's closed up there.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
the house with the guy with all the toys.
Yeah.
House that Mark built.
So when you did that, did you shut the valve and see if you could shut off Copeland Street?
The old ones?
No, the new ones you
Oh,
cut
no,
in.
the new ones, we know we can shut it off.
Okay. So the other valves are just in the
They just
ground
sit
and
there,
open
they'll
and
just
sit.
be left alone. We'll put 2x4s in them,
Okay.
tell everybody to leave them alone.
So the water goes up North Elm at that island, connects to Copeland, heads back down to Copeland, and then
Right.
sort of, is the problem with Grant Street, so if we were to shut off Grant Street, would you have a flow going around?
It may not force it, there's no need for it to go up there and go around. There's minimal usage up there, you've got small residents on either side who really don't sprinkle their lawn.
Yeah.
And there's minimal usage, so the water goes up on both sides and it doesn't have to move. That's why the Copeland, I don't know why the North Elm side isn't as bad, but the Copeland side is really bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
literally chunks of rust come out.
Because the water comes up from the back of Pine Hill and ties into that, what's that, 16 on North Elm Street?
Right,
So
but
it bypasses right over Copeland Street there, right?
Yes.
It doesn't tie into Copeland.
right, no, it doesn't. It bypasses it.
And this problem's been there forever.
Yeah.
You got that, Gary?
We didn't really start hearing about it until after the Walnut Street tank came online.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a problem there, I didn't hear about it. Maybe the previous administration.
Well, that probably changed the flows somewhat in the area. It kept it from,
Right,
once you change something.
but there's no real reason for it to go up there and come around.
Well, it's hopefully it'll work. Keep the dead stagnant water.
That makes it easier for us, yeah.
Yeah, easier to flush anyway.
Yeah.
And you know you can control it, because if you can't control it, you're just pulling it from everywhere, and you're probably never pulling it up from Copeland anyway.
Right.
Okay,
I don't have anything else.
nothing else? Mark, anything?
I have nothing.
Sean?
I'm done. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Done.
Next meeting is the 15th, which we already said.